So we would like to begin. So how this session will go, we'll have about 15 minutes. Abe will speak about public speaking and communication and why it is important. And then how we can help you, right, to achieve your goal, to learn the communication, the art of communication, the art of speaking. It doesn't matter wherever you are. You might be student, you might be businessman, you might be housewife, or you might be, professionally working at your organization as an employee. So how we can help you also to achieve your goal. So at the end of the session, we are going to talk about this, a process which can solve your problem or you can achieve your goal, right? So we're going to offer you something. It's a kind of mentorship program. This is surely going to help you. So how it will help you, we're going to talk about it. And who is going to talk about it? It's Abe Brown, right? Let me welcome Mr. Abe. He is from Canada, all the way from Canada, the other part of the world, right? We are 13 hours apart right now. And Abe is having more than 25 years of experience, across, various parts of the globe. And last 20 years, he's been speaking, training, coaching, and also certifying coaches, right, from all over the world. He's coaches coach. He certifies coaches. If you want to become a trainer, if you want to become a coach, if you want to become a speaker, and Abe is the man who is certifying it, thousands across the world. We'll talk about it definitely, where he came and how he began and how he's impacting his life and others' life, right? So we are going to put it, this episode short live to our page. Tahmid, if you are ready to go to live. And everyone, I would like to request you to welcome Abe with a round of applause, because he's a guest from another part of the world, but of course, within this planet, I'm sure. Abe, you're welcome to this program. Thank you for joining.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome. I'm so grateful for the opportunity to speak with you. It's always so good to see my friends in Bangladesh, and of course, you, Coach Kamrul. We're very excited about all the great things that you're doing, making an impact all over your incredible nation. And so welcome, everybody. I want to spend a bit of time here today talking about the best investment you will ever make. But before we do that, I'll tell you one thing. How many of you have heard of Canadian winters? And a Canadian winter is a very cold thing. And so I just finished a run this morning. Last night, I flew home. I was in a community called High Prairie in Alberta, which is about 900 kilometers away from where I live. And so I flew home last night. I got about 5 hours sleep. I woke up and went for my run this morning. And here I am with you. It was -2 degrees Celsius. And so I don't know, Coach Kamrul, if you get a lot of -2 degrees Celsius in Bangladesh, but I don't think you get a lot of that, do you?
No, not at all. I think closest we might get, maybe, 5, 6, 7 closest, right? Yeah. On an average is 12 to 15 in winter.
Okay.
Not minus,
well,
plus.
And I bet sometimes you probably wish it was a little cold when it gets really hot, right? Because my wife is from the Philippines, and I'm hoping to see you in Bangladesh soon, but many times in the Philippines, they're complaining it's too hot. And it's very humid there as well. So, I'm so grateful for the opportunity to speak with you. I've got a couple of my Canadian friends who are on the call here today. I see Mr. John Jacobs. Welcome today, John. Thanks for joining us. I see Nita Knapp, Mrs. Nita Knapp. Nice to see you as well. So let me just share my screen. I'm going to just dive into some things that I hope will be helpful to you today. And actually, before I really go hardcore on this, I'm actually going to share if I can, on Facebook, your live stream on my own. And so that way we can sort of maximize our reach here together. So give me a second to do that. But, I hope that all of you are excited about the incredible things that Coach Kamrul is doing. And all of you have the opportunity to do that. I can tell you that without a doubt, it's awesome to be a part of something that's bigger than yourself. And, that's what he is doing. It's, awesome to see a man who has got vision, and vision changes the world. So having said that, I think I'm ready to go. Thank you so much. I want to talk about the best investment that you'll ever make. As Coach Kamrul said, my name's Abe Brown. I'm the founder of Certified Coaches, Certified Flourishing Coaches, and also the founder and creator of Elevate EST. Warren Buffett says that public speaking is the best investment that you can ever make. Warren Buffett. Now, how many of you have heard of Warren Buffett? If you kind of know the business landscape, you know that Warren Buffett is actually one of the world's greatest investors. As a matter of fact, he is either the number one or number two or number three wealthiest person on the planet for about the last 30 years. And so at the annual Berkshire Hathaway, and that's the name of his company, at the annual Berkshire Hathaway shareholder meeting, Buffett was asked twice to name the single best investment he recommends today as a hedge or protection against inflation. Well, the two people who asked the question expected a stock tip, because that's what Warren Buffett does. He invests in the stock market, and they were hoping to get, what's the next stock tip that's going to make me a lot of money. Buffett gave what he considered a more valuable opinion as an investment. He said, I'll tell you something even better than a stock, and check out his answer. He said, the best investment by far is developing yourself. Now, I just want you to think about that for a moment. When you look around you, I know that many of us think, well, I wish I could invest in some stocks, or maybe I could invest in some gold or some valuable minerals. Maybe you could invest in a business or a company. But Warren Buffett said the best investment that you could make is in yourself. And here's what's interesting about Warren Buffett. For years, he would host business school students who would make a pilgrimage to his office in Omaha, Nebraska to meet him. They were often surprised when Buffett showed off his most prized diploma of all of his accomplishments. The accomplishment that he was most proud of was a framed certificate from a public speaking course. He said, there's a diploma hanging in my office. It's from a Dale Carnegie course that cost me $100 in 1951. It's incalculable how much I got from that $100. You see, Warren Buffett, prior to taking this course, was deathly afraid of speaking, but he wanted to be able to speak to rooms full of investors so that he could get their money in order to build his business. But being totally afraid of public speaking meant that he wasn't able to fulfill his dream. And so what did he do? All the way back in 1951, 71 years ago, Warren Buffett invested $100 US in 1951, which would be about $800 or $900 US today, in a public speaking course that literally changed the game for him mentally and in terms of his capacity to speak. And after that, he was able to get in front of rooms of potential investors and make a pitch to invest in his company. And all of us know today the story of Warren Buffett. Now he's worth over $100 billion. So how would you like to invest $100 and have it potentially yield $100 billion? That's what Warren Buffett did. And by the way, Warren Buffett is not a professional public speaker. He simply speaks in his job, and his ability to communicate is the thing that has allowed him to grow the business that he has. Now, I want to spend a couple of moments talking today about Elevate EST. Elevate EST stands for Exceptional Speaker Training. I'll tell you what, whether you're an engineer, whether you're an accountant, whether you're a salesperson, whether you're a lawyer, whether you're a person who works in a job, every single one of us has the opportunity and I think the need to elevate our skills of communication. What can exceptional speaking do for you? Well, number one, it empowers you to cast your vision. Now think about that. Let's imagine you're the new manager in a company or the new supervisor on a work team, or let's say you're in charge of a project management for a particular job site, and you have a vision for how you want the team to operate. You have a vision for how you want the organization to run. Let's say you just bought a business and you have a vision for how you want that business to operate. Let me tell you this, people do not respond to need, they respond to vision. And so by becoming an exceptional speaker, it allows you, number one, to cast your vision. The second thing it allows you to do is to captivate your audience. Now, when you think about it, there are a lot of boring speakers out there. Okay. I don't know how many of you have sat through a presentation and fallen asleep through a presentation and gotten bored in a presentation. I've never fallen asleep in one, but I've been pretty bored in some presentations. And that's because a lot of speakers don't know actually how to communicate. And when you learn and become an exceptional speaker, it causes you to literally captivate your audience. Now think about it. There's some very simple principles that you can utilize as a public speaker that will help you to capture and captivate your audience. I mean, the first is in the first 60 seconds. What are you doing to capture their attention? Because if you don't earn the audience's attention in the first 60 seconds, then the chances are you're not going to get it after the first 60 seconds. But what about being warm? What about being kind? What about being friendly? What about making eye contact? What about smiling? Do you know that the effectiveness of your speaking goes up by 10, 20, 30% just by smiling? Why? Because people are much more attracted to a happy face than an angry face or an intense face. And it's not to say that we shouldn't have intensity, but it's to say that we ought to be the kind of people who step up and step out into a place where we're inviting people in. The third thing that exceptional speaking enables you to do and empowers you to do is it empowers you to communicate your story. I'll tell you what, if you're that accountant or that engineer, if you're that business owner or that manager, every single one of us has a story. And let me promise you this, more than any other thing, your story will move people. Okay, we all want to move people. We all want to influence them. We all want to shape them. Well, I'll tell you what, your story will influence people. Why? Because facts tell, but stories sell. I'm going to talk a bit more about that in a moment. The next thing that exceptional speaking causes you to do is to convince your skeptics. Now, let's just say, I remember the first time I took over a role of senior leadership. I was 22 years old, and I had been placed as the head of this nonprofit. And I remember the entire group voted me in, but there was one person who voted against me being given the role of leadership. And the reason he voted me in was because I was 22 years old and he was 62 years old. And I remember driving to his house and standing on his front porch, and he was talking about the fact that there was nothing that he felt that he could learn from me as a 22-year-old compared to him being a 62-year-old. Well, I'll tell you what, I didn't convince him by, begging him or pleading him. I convinced him by becoming an exceptional speaker, because he could see that I communicated with confidence, that he could see that I communicated with clarity. He could see that I communicated with a crispness and a courage that allowed him to lock in to believe and trust me. And this, is actually interesting, because literally thousands of years ago, about 2,500 years ago, the Greek philosopher, the Greek educator, Aristotle, he talked about how is it that you could convince and persuade people? How is it that you could actually influence people? And he talked about three things. Number one, he talked about this idea of logos, and this is the idea of logic. And so great speakers are logical. Hey, you're an engineer, you understand the importance of logic. But number two, great speakers have pathos, is what Aristotle said. And this is the idea of passion. It's the idea of emotion. Now, you can't be emotional, but you've got to have some passion, because it's passion that grips the heart. But the third thing that he talked about was ethos, which was your lived credibility. Are you a person who's actually credible? Do you show up looking professional? Do you show up responding to the needs of the audience? Do you show up in a way that causes people to respect you? And I'll tell you what, all of those things we teach in Elevate EST Exceptional Speaker Training. I'll tell you what, number 5, exceptional speakers speaking empowers you to close your sales. Now, listen, some of you on this call today are salespeople. Some of you are. You're involved in marketing. You're involved in social media. You're involved in business development. You're involved in law, some of you. And I'll tell you what, some of you are university professors. Listen to me. No matter what you do, almost every one of us is selling something. I'll tell you what, a university professor is selling the content in the course to the students so that the students buy in. The lawyer is selling their side of the case to the judge. I'll tell you what, the politician is selling their vision to the public. I'll tell you what, the salesperson is selling their product or their service to the person who might be buying it. And the social media specialist is selling the storytelling and the imagery to the audience so that they can click and make sales. I'll tell you what, everybody is selling something. I want to go back, if I can, to Warren Buffett for a moment. He literally said that this $100 course that he took in college gave me, this is Warren Buffett quoted, he said, it gave me the most important degree I have, and it's why I'm successful today. Think about that for a moment. Warren Buffett, he took a $100 investment in a public speaking course, learned how to sell, and $100 billion later, everybody knows his name. Why? Because I'll tell you what, public speaking, exceptional speaking allows you to close sales. Can I give you one more? I'll tell you what, exceptional speaking, it empowers you to crush your competition. I'll tell you what, we're all competing with somebody. You might be competing with somebody for a promotion. You might be competing with somebody for tenure in university. You might be competing with somebody for a mark in a presentation. And I'll tell you what, I don't know about you, but I like to win. And here's the thing I've discovered is in business, the best communicator wins. I'll tell you what, you see this in business, you see this in politics, you see this in the law. The art of propaganda is literally who is the most persuasive. And I'm not saying that we should be false or lack integrity. But what I am saying is we've got to learn how to persuade and to influence people using our words. Now, I want to just take one moment and speak about something that I think is really important to take notice of. And you can't talk about speaking without talking about the 3 biggest mistakes that speakers make. I'll tell you what, as Coach Kamrul said, I've been a professional speaker. I've run several businesses. I've run many large nonprofits. So I've been a paid professional speaker as well for almost 30 years. And so I'm unique. A lot of professional speakers actually have never run any businesses, and they've never run any nonprofits. They've never actually been an entrepreneur. I've been all of those things. And so over the years, I've noticed that there's 3 mistakes that speakers make. The first one is what I call a lack of charisma. Now, what is charisma? It comes from the Greek word charis, which literally speaks of energy or attractiveness. And, it's interesting because people who are in your audience, they need to like you. There's a likability factor that the greatest public speakers have, and really, I'll tell you what, charisma, likability is something that you're not born with, but it's actually something you can develop. It's also not about being an introvert or an extrovert, because I've seen a lot of introverts in the personal life who, when they get on the stage, are able to become an extrovert because they learn how to develop charisma. The second mistake that speakers make, I think, is a lack of confidence. I'll tell you what, a lack of confidence will crush you as a speaker. They tell us that the number 1 or number 2 fear that people have in the world is public speaking. And I think that's crazy. Why? Because being a great speaker is a wonderful gift. It's a wonderful gift you give to yourself. It's the capacity to be unlocked and unleashed and to share the important and valuable information that's inside your heart and inside your mind. But I'll tell you what, a lack of confidence, when you're lacking confidence, do you know what happens is your audience lacks respect for you. I've seen this happen where, somebody gets up and they're all shy and they can't make any eye contact and they're always looking down, and you can just tell that they're afraid. And instantly, you see the audience respect for that individual go down. And so the first mistake is a lack of charisma. The second mistake is a lack of confidence, and you need your audience to respect you. But the third one, and this one is really important, is a lack of competence. What is the challenge for a lot of speakers? They just never learn how to become an exceptional speaker, right? They've never learned the skills or the tools. And so what's the solution? Well, the solution is Elevate EST. Elevate EST, Exceptional Speaker Training, is a course that's completely devoted, along with a mentoring and coaching process with Coach Kamrul, to elevate your effectiveness as a speaker so that you can develop that charisma, you can develop that confidence, and you can develop that confidence. And so here's the question, and I'm going to get to your question in a moment, Mr. or Ms. Oppo. I'll tell you what do we cover in Elevate EST? Well, we literally cover all the way down to how to construct an outline for your speaking course. How is it that you can give a talk and have confidence? How can you utilize storytelling? What are we going to do when it comes to the biomechanics of great speaking? What are we going to do when it comes to body language? How do we use our hand gestures? How can we create PowerPoint presentations that make sense? How is it that we can have effective stage presence? And most importantly, how can we help you break through your fear? Because if you break through your fear as a speaker, all of the other things begin to fall into place. So let me give you, just before I take some questions, some testimonials. There was Thomas in the United States. He said, Elevate EST changed my life. It built my confidence and empowered my career. This is Thomas in the United States. Listen to what Joanne said in Canada. Joanne said this. She said that Elevate EST opened my eyes to the possibilities that exist when you can break your fear and learn the skills to speak, right? So breaking free of that fear so you can step in to that confident talk. And, the third sort of thing, and so people have said so many things, I had a hard time sort of deciding what to say, but Ashraf from Asia, he said literally, just really simply, he said, Elevate EST, it changed my life. And so as I close, and I'm going to take some questions, exceptional speaking, it does, it empowers you to cast your vision. It empowers you to captivate your audience. It empowers you to communicate your story, to convince your skeptics, to close your sales, and to crush your competition. I would really encourage you to take up Coach Kamrul's offer on Elevate EST here today. And so I'm just going to pause right now, and I think that there's a couple of questions, and yet I'll take Coach Kamrul's lead here and how you want to handle that.
Thank you, Abe. I'm sure that we got some point. Did you get something new out of Abe's presentation? Yes, I got something new as well. Every time I listen, I watch. So what did you get something? Was it helpful? Was it useful? Did you learn something new? All right. So it's time to ask some questions to directly to Abe. So your thoughts, or maybe your opinions, your suggestions, anything you want to ask. Yes, it's your time. And later on, I'm going to detail the program after Abe's, handle all the questions. Anyone? Just raise your hand and switch on the microphone and, share your thoughts. Feel free. You also can ask questions in Bangla as well. I can translate it. That's okay. Don't feel shy, right? Like, don't hold yourself. Oh no, I cannot ask in English. Okay, that's okay. Yes, Mr. MD Abdul Rahman. Yes, please.
Thank you so much. This is Abdul Rahman. Nice to meet you, Mr. Abe Brown. Basically, in the early ages, we go to school, and after that, we completed our graduation. So it is not enough to develop ourselves. Why we need the training for our personal development?
Okay. So, okay. Abe basically is asking that, despite going to school and universities, why it is important still to develop us and ourselves.
Such a great question. I'll tell you what, one of the challenges with a lot of the colleges and universities is that they prepare you for the technical skill in that area. So let's say you're an engineer or a lawyer, but what they don't often prepare you for is a lot of the business realities, what we would call the soft skills. And so you can learn the hard skills in a university environment, but the soft skills are actually often the most important. How do you relate with people? How do you treat people? Emotional intelligence, social intelligence, and this whole idea of speaking. It's so important. And like Warren Buffett said, I mean, Warren Buffett was well educated, but when he spent $100 on a public speaking course, it changed his life.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Just to add with Abe Brown, very relevant question. We all are actually graduated, from universities, some bachelor, some masters, some PhDs, and then same I did. I did my BBA and also MBA, and I worked for 20 years almost in the corporate industries, large multinational organizations. And later on, I became, certified trainer, speaker, and coach. And then actually I learned I know nothing. I know nothing. What I used to think, I know many things because I was a boss. People are working under me. I was rating them. Later on, I realized when I learned actually the self-development, the importance of self-development, the windows, the doors opened in front of me, which I didn't see in the last 20 years. Trust me. The number one thing, I got trust, I got confidence. And as Abe said, your confidence is your number one jewelry. How you connect, how you approach. You don't have to mesmerize people, but at least persuade, what you know. Makes sense, Abe? What do you think about, right? What's your point?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, at the end of the day, the business world does, at least in Canada, in the United States, and they admit it, we're only training you for just a part of the package. And so you need more. And, through the many different jobs that I've had, the two things that have helped me the most is my people skills and my capacity to speak and communicate. If you can't communicate effectively, it's going to be very hard to get the company to follow you. And a lot of the times you have to manage up, and that's managing your own boss and managing the people that you're under and influence them. And if you don't have the skills of persuasion, it's going to be very difficult for you. So
absolutely. Thank you. We have some raised hand. Definitely we'll let you ask questions. And also, Miss Rumi Akhtar, right? We have 3 raised hands, I see. I let you, Rumi Akhtar, right? If I am correct, I don't know. Okay. Introduce yourself and ask your questions, please.
Thank you for giving me the opportunities. I want to ask a question that after the course we finish, will we get a certificate about it?
Yes, it will. Of course. But, a certificate is you yourself are the certificate. That's myself. Yes, we'll give you a certificate. That's a paper, right? But you become valuable. You practice it. You develop muscle. You go to the gym, and the biggest certificate is you have the muscles, right? And you have the strength, you have the stamina, right? That's the practical thing. This course is a practical orientation, practical lessons. Make sense? Right?
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yes, Rashidur and also Noman, please.
Assalamu alaikum, bhaiya. I am Rashidul Rahman. I work for Tita Gas Transmission and Distribution Company Limited as a deputy manager. I have a question, Abe Brown. You are a very inspiring speaker, and you show your message, and you convince our in a short way and effectively. And I have a question to you that our Eastern philosophy and your philosophy is different, and how we can achieve our ultimate goal in our exceptional speaking in the Eastern philosophy. And is there any filtering process or the same process you develop in your culture, which is fit in our culture? So it is my cordial request to you to explain the effectiveness of your course to our culture, which fit our local cultural activities and others to emotional and others, which is not logical in mind, and they are more feeling by kinesthetic type people in our country. So thank you, Brown, for joining with us. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you. What a great question. And obviously, there are cultural differences, and we can't deny that. As a matter of fact, we celebrate cultural differences. And so by having this program facilitated by Coach Kamrul in Bangladesh and in a partnership with us, it means that he's able to take the best of what we offer, which really comes from neuroscience, the neuroscience of communication, and yet put it in such a way that it flows with more of an Eastern mindset and an Eastern approach, to use your terminology. And so, we understand that from a brain science perspective, we all have different cultures, but fundamentally, the mechanics of our brain work the same. And so that's a lot of what we teach, but then Coach Kamrul will take that and adapt it to the cultural context of your country and your region. And this is very important because I don't want to assume that I know and that I understand. I've spoken all over the world. I've been blessed to speak from Africa to Asia to all over the United States and Europe and the Middle East. But I'll tell you what, I don't understand your culture nearly as well as you do. And so, Coach Kamrul is going to be entrusted with making sure that the messaging and the methodology is relevant for you.
Thank you, Ed.
Makes sense, Mr. Rashidul, right? So that's why actually I am here, right? So, to facilitate, and also making a smaller bite size and chewable, right? So that you can chew it over 3 months' time. We can have a lot of food at a time, but can we process it? No, we can't. That's why actually bite size and chewable. And, another reason, let me tell you the direct benefit, why, I have been able to make also partnership with Abe because of speaking, because of persuasion. I pursued Abe more than a year, right? To be heard and to be recognized. And then, you can build business literally out of nothing. This is genuinely I'm sharing, and Abe is here, right? After a year, Abe responded and then opened up. Had I not been learned the speaking and persuasion, it would not have been possible either. Right, that's, I am the testimony myself, right? That's why you learn it and then you feel it and then you show it, you experience it, is yourself.
Thank you, Bhaiya.
Yes, Mr. Noman, please. Yes, that's your turn.
Thank you to give me this opportunity, and mostly thank you to you because you arranged this session, and it's my pleasure to have here. And I have one question, and I would like to ask, Abe. So my first question is, who was she beside Abe a few minutes back? The little girl, who was she? And second question is, when we want to speak in public speaking, how to be a good storyteller? So I would like to be a storyteller, but I am not. So if you tell me a very simple step, one or two or three, so it will be great pleasure to me here. And I would like to answer from both of two. One is from Abe in English, and another one is from our dearest Kamrul Hasan bhai. So if you tell how to be a storyteller in Bangla, so I would like to answer in two languages, so it will be helpful for others also. Thank you.
Thank you. What a great question. The little girl was my daughter. Her name is Jasmine. She's 8 years old. She's just woke up and she's getting ready for school now. And I'm going to drop her off in a few minutes right after this at her school. In terms of storytelling, what a great question. There's something about storytelling that unites us universally as humanity. You know, all the way back in the earliest of recorded human history, all over the world was this idea of, you know, the campfire and, you know, people sitting around a campfire at the end of the day and sharing story. And I feel like one of the greatest skills in storytelling is just to be honest, to choose the right story. You know, a lot of the time speakers choose the wrong stories. They're stories that might be relevant to them, but aren't relevant to the audience. So you always need to think, where is my audience at mentally, emotionally, even culturally, and how can I pull a story out that's going to connect, right? So I'm a man, I'm a father, I'm a husband. I want to pick stories that can relate along those lines, that if I'm speaking to a group of men, that would allow them to understand, because fatherhood is we have similar challenges, right? We all exist in families and we all exist in relationship with other people. The other impact on a story is I've seen some speakers make the mistake of giving too much detail that's not relevant to the main point. And so then you're wasting valuable time giving elements of a story that don't really have anything to do with ultimately what your point is. And then that would naturally lead to the third thing I've seen, and that is just literally going on too long with your story. So when you think about your talk, and we teach this in Elevate EST, if whatever amount of time you're given, you have to plan it out. So let's say you're given 20 minutes for your talk and you have a story to tell, then you want to make sure that that storytelling would only take up a certain amount of the time so that you leave enough time to connect the dots. And I think a lot of inexperienced speakers don't do that. And then they run over their time. And it feels very disrespectful to the audience when you don't respect their time. So thank you for your question, sir. Much appreciated.
Thank you, Abe, and for your answer. You know, Abe, please feel free to stay or, to drop your kids. And I know this, time is very, tight for you. So, you take it, as you are comfortable.
Yeah,
all right.
I'll take off now, everybody, but thank
Sure.
you so much. And Coach Kamrul will be in touch, okay?
Thank you.
Blessings to
Thank
all
you,
of
Abe.
you. Take care.
Thank you. Thank you, Abe. Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm going to share definitely, some of this storytelling. What is actually story? Story is the real experience. It's nothing fabricated. Story sometimes, bringing your real life experiences that you have overcome. So that means it amar nijer ব্যক্তিগত জীবন থেকে, right? So then people feel the connection. Yes, you look like me, you experienced like me hardship, the joy, the unhappiness, the struggles, the success, the failure. Audience would like to know that. It's nothing you fabricate, you tell out of nowhere. It's not the story. It's your struggle which can connect emotionally, and that is very important, right? And there is flesh, there is blood, and there is bones, right? And it makes a structure. You and me is a combination of bones, fleshes, right? And then bloods, and then veins inside, right? And arteries, arteries, right? All of these is a component of a story, right? So, there's a detail in the program, in the courses. The first thing is you got to practice. You got to be willing to be vulnerable. That means you got to be willing to share your, downside, negative side sometimes, and also, how you struggled. A lot of people say, oh no, I don't want to share my struggles. I want to share only my success, success and success. No, to me, that doesn't connect people. People need to hear, how did you overcome them? What did you apply? What was the lessons? Make sense, Mr. Norman? Right, for the time being, that's bits for you. Thank you. So any more questions, anyone can ask me. In the meantime, I'm going to share with you what we are going to offer in this Elevate EST, Exceptional Speaker Training Program, Mentorship Program. It's a 3-month course. It's a 3-month journey rather, right? It's a hand-holding. It's a kind of, private tuition. So it's a kind of, why? Because I have learned, only in a classroom setting, 2 days or 1 day program, it doesn't help that much unless you practice it. And for that, you got to have accountability partner. Make sense? Would you agree with me? Because we all are adult. We are not going to universities, schools and colleges anymore, so that we have teachers and every morning and say, what did you learn, right? Did you do your homework? So for that reason, adults, we need accountability partners. Make sense? Somebody who will be accountable, it kind of mirror, you can see your face in the mirror, right? So that's how I'm going to create, after 2 days of learning, a small team kind of accountability partner. Over the next 3 months, this small team will be mirroring. So what do I mean by mirroring, right? You hold others, how do you practicing? Let's practice. In that way, you're going to practice within that small group. And then I'm going to show and teach how to give feedback, how to observe. And that's the lessons you're going to learn. And then you meet within the small team. That's your accountability. And monthly once, I'm coming in a show within an online, but first 2 days is physically, and then next 3 months is online. And then 3 months, in at least 3 times, I'm going to come and observe and give you feedback, and also giving you some other tools so that you are practicing and building the muscles. Make sense? So within a small team, you are meeting 3 times in a month, every 10 days, because we have lots of practices. That includes tongue twist. How do you, twist your tongue? How do you practice it? Create a rhythm, vocal practice, right? All of these things. And then practicing stories. Stories not to be told only. You know what I mean? Stories, should be displayed, not only by verbal, not only by words, but also display. You know what? Speaking is not only the oral. Your body, your gestures should be connected with what you say, so that people can understand. It's a kind of displaying, not only saying. Make sense? So that's, over time you can learn. So you have to see something, what you're going to say, and then connect your body and display. And that's how you connect with another person. Make sense? So that's how we're going to create this safe zone. Why this is safe zone? Safe zone means you are adult. Yes and no, right? We are adult. We are afraid of opening our mouths in front of unknown people because our fear holding us back. Oh no, I don't want to speak. Oh no, how you're going to judge me? So creating safe space is very important. Nobody going to criticize you. You see, so that you do mistake and then learn. And it's called feed forward. Feeding means giving you something forward so that you go forward. Fail forward not go backward. You know, a lot of us, we do mistake and we fail and we go backward. Makes sense? Right? Rather than moving forward. You know, because we are afraid to implement what did we learn? What did we do mistake? So that's why we call it feed forward. Feed forward is champion's breakfast. You want to be the champion in your career? You want to succeed? You want to achieve? You want to grow? You want to impact? You got to learn and build this muscle within yourself. So that's overall process of the 3 months. And then, you know, in this way, you're going to build the muscle. You don't go to the gym in one day and expect building the muscle, do you? Do you expect to build muscles? You know, this muscles? No, you got to go over and over and over. You do biceps, right? And then you do leg push-ups, and then you go, you know, the abdominal, you know, cardios, you know, different exercises. So same as speaking, you have different exercises of your vocal, your facial expressions, your throats, right? Even breathing, you know, vowel sounds, consonant sounds, right? And there are different, you know, ways of detailing, you know, what you speak. Make sense? Am I clear? So still, you know, this takes time. Yes, I'm open to ask questions. Our first batch is going to happen on 25th, this Friday and Saturday, 2 days in Dhaka, in a hotel, right? And then our second batch, we're going to have in December. That's in a shorter version in a 1-day program, right? And December 9th. So if you think, some of you all know, because it's pretty expensive, I would say, in compared to other programs. So that's how I'm going to offer you. So thank you so much for your active participation. It was good dialogue, good conversations. I think you have engaged with the speaker and with your questions and curiosity. And hopefully we are going to see some of you and we're going to serve you. If not this time, maybe next time. But until then, you all take care, stay well, and stay healthy.